So we have a very important decision to make. Now if you look here, you'll see, and this was pointed out by one person, thought that he saw a little crack right there in the wood, and it is. There's just a slight crack where one of, I guess I'll call these the dowel heads there, kind of separated a little bit. And I've looked it over really good, and I don't care. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. It's common when I've done axe handles, and I have some that are still holding tough today, that did something similar to that. And it's not a big deal. So don't let it break your heart if something like that happens. It just will happen sometime, especially with this, where we have so much pressure being exerted on the sides, almost like a splitting wedge on these things. I guess it was probably inevitable. So we have to make an important decision right now. So what do we do? So in the original ones, right, we had metal wedges, a metal wedge in there, I believe. But what's the chance of driving that? These are big. What's the chance of driving that down there that's going to really eat everything up? It seems to me, and if I could find a wedge that was roughly this width, something like this, but it was much narrower, I think I would go for it. I guess the other option is we could put multiple small ones. I mean, is that something we should consider? To get some little tiny guys like these here, right there, and drive those in there. I think that is not going to work either. Seems to me, and we may regret this, seems to me that a standard wooden wedge in there will be sufficient. Now I've got plenty of room there. I've got, maybe a fingernail's width around there, a little bit more room to grow, and that's by design. I want that to spread out. But I think something like this here, this little wood wedge, is going to be the way to go, don't you? If we tap, can you see that in there? Get that down in there and press those out. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, let's cut it to width, and let's just do it. You can make your own wedges, bandsaw. I usually make my wedges with the bandsaw, but or the store. You can get store-bought ones still. These are just some that Granddad had. But what we want to do is we definitely want to go. I want this to be tight to the outside of the eye. So I'm gonna match this side up right there. Come here and kind of eyeball that right there. I want it to squish in there. I'll make a little mark. All right, there's our mark. And then we can just take that down there, I'll just give it a little tap there and split that off there. The grain's not super straight, so if that's the case, we'll just keep peeling that off. Still a little bit. Like that. Okay, and I'll want that even. I'll even make that shape a little bit. There's no reason for it to be touching and fighting it all the way down. Make it a little bit narrower, and then it will come into its own here, somewhere in the middle. Which that looks really good. I'm just really gonna take a small amount off there. Okay. I really do believe that sooting is a great idea. That's something that I'm going to use on other axe heads. I'm feeling optimistic. Got my original Wranglerstar Maker's Mark. Getting ready. Gonna warm that up there. Get ready to brand the tool unless I destroy it here, which is quite possible, and we'll have to do it over again. Can you imagine the howls of indignation if I had to do another 5 videos? All right, so I'm going to put a little boiled linseed oil on there. Oh, I'm not supposed to use my finger. I better get some gloves. I always get so excited that I want to get it on there. Get it on my finger. So I'll put this on. So boiled linseed oil, if you don't know, is, and you've probably heard somebody will say, well, if you got a loose axe head, you just dump it in a bucket of water, right? And it will make it tight, no doubt about it. But the problem with doing that is when you take it out and the water leaves the wood, it's in worse condition. You've compressed that wood against the side of the axe cheeks, and then crushed it, and then when the water leaves, it gets smaller, then it's looser than it was before. Well, boiled linseed oil does essentially the same thing, but it doesn't go away. So it's going in there right now. The cells are absorbing it, and it's starting to swell a little bit, and it will continue to swell and make a nice tight head, but it won't leave. It stays there. It's like putting a bunch of million little hydraulic jacks in your wood cells, and they're in there holding it tight for you. That's kind of the analogy that makes sense to me. Okay, here together we're going to experience is it the thrill of victory, or perhaps the agony of defeat? Man, there's no reason not to put some. I have started putting the boiled linseed oil on that. It seems to lubricate better. It seems that the wedge have had less difficulties or less trouble with the wedge going in because of the slides a little bit better. And also, once you get it really wedged in there, it's hard to get the boiled linseed oil into the axe head. So now when we have those voids, look at the bubbles coming out there. That's what we want. We can start this wedge here. I do almost wish that the kerf was a little bit wider. It's very tight in there. Okay, it's starting to go. All right, here's the critical part. Cue the dramatic music to build drama. Going to use a piece of hardwood here, hickory on top, and a good for a metal hammer that we can get a good blow. Hopefully this wedge won't split, but it may. Very intentional, firm strikes, even. End grain's better, but with hickory, the wood there's not much give in it. It's okay for this little one. It is going in good. You can see the BLO squeezing out. We only have a few strikes where we split the wedge, so this needs to be done. Each one needs to count. I've got the axe handle sitting on the screw of the jack. It's okay, that's fine for a little one like this. Big one, you'd want to be on the concrete or on an anvil, something immovable. Ooh, that was a bit of a sloppy hit there. Driving in nicely though. Very, very good so far. Oh, really seated in there nice now. I could feel it right there. I could definitely feel it. I'm going to give it one more. That's about it. I could feel that really seat home. Goodness, so much drama with that. My hands are sweating, sweat on the brow. He's got so much invested in this. Looks good though. That's it. That is it. All right, let's take a closer look at the eye. So we look pretty good in there. I mean, there's room for improvement, no doubt. You can see there's a couple of small voids, maybe in there. But for the first attempt, I think it looks really good. I'm happy with that. Next one, of course, would be better. I don't know if there ever will be a next one. These are not something that could come by very often. I've never seen one. I think that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Cut this wedge with a little saw. Any saw will work. Something with really fine teeth. I like I started crooked there. So if you start crooked like that, I don't want to cut into the handle. I want to leave that sticking out there proud. I think that looks nice. Cut in the handle. If you find cutting wrong, just back out, and we can just chisel that down, a little sandpaper, support that. We don't want it to tear out. We can just take our carving knife and pull that down there. Now remember, when you're doing this, when you have unsupported, this is an unsupported corner there, and if we cut this way, chances are that we'll tear it out. So you want to make sure that you're coming into yourself with the knife right there like that, and just pull that down there. Combination of all that soot and that linseed oil has made the wood kind of dark there. Same way, change your angle there. Carve away from yourself. Boy, no more sleepless nights about wedging that head on that silly thing. You know the thing I have to I want to troll something right now. I'm going to troll a Dremel tool. Funniest thing is that every time, any type of a project that's always kind of a head scratcher, or anything that's, not non-traditional, always hundreds, if not thousands of comments. Excuse me. Hello? Yeah. Hey Nathan, how are you doing? That was a very exciting call about some very exciting future content potentially that you love it when YouTubers say, "Oh yeah, I got this exciting stuff going on. I can't tell you about it," but I can't. It happens that way. So what we're talking about, the Dremels. So always, whenever whenever anything comes up, the Dremel tool is always the solution to the world's problem. I mean, I really believe after all of the Dremel comments and the comments for over the years that if someone would take a Dremel over to Israel, that they could solve the problem, the Palestinian-Israeli problem. It could have ended the Cold War with a Dremel tool, but I don't like Dremel tools. I've got 3 of them, and I mean, apart from the only time I've ever found a Dremel tool useful is for cleaning the rust out of the gullets of a crosscut saw. Not to say that it's not. I mean, everybody's going to say, but I mean, for little tiny tedious projects, a Dremel tool I think is probably fine. And I think majority of people that say, "Oh, get a Dremel," or if I was going to do that, I'd use a Dremel. They're not that great. They're not that great. They're not always the solution for everything. People think so, though. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Let's take a look. So, what do you think right there? Look good? Zoom you in here. Yeah, not perfect, is it? Definitely not perfect. But pretty good. What do you think there? And I did it without a Dremel tool. All right, well, that's it. We'll see you guys on the next video. Good morning. July 25th, another beautiful day. I thought we'd mix things up a little bit and do a slow flyover over the northern stand. I see coming up there on the left is our biggest tree. Man, that Douglas fir is a monster. So let's do something a little different today. I thought maybe, it's been a long time since we've done a Manly Matters. Manly Manners. Don'ts for Husbands, page 19, says, "Don't think you can live your lives apart under the same roof and still be happy. Marriage is a joint affair and cannot comfortably be worked along separate lines." Man, that's very true. I have known couples that have gone into this agreement, this contract, this marriage, with a back door. And there's many things I have, from keeping their income separate to, lots of different things. But I've always wondered about that. And I think, I don't know that it is a good idea to have a back door or an escape route, because it causes you to look back. It causes you maybe not to fully commit. The story that I always use in the Bible studies is the story of Cortez. You know, when Cortez, he was the explorer, when he discovered the new land, and the men were on shore, he slipped out and he burned his fleet. He burned his ships. And the reason why he did that is he always knew that the men, if times got tough, if they were persecuted by the native population, if winter became hard, or they became hungry, they would always look back to those ships. They thought, well, you know, if it gets too hard here, can always get back on the ships and sail home, right? So he burned those ships, and therefore his men were highly motivated. Highly motivated. You know, and I think, you know, Dr. Luke, he says it here. How does that go? No man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. And he's talking about the very same thing. You know, we need to, when we make that decision, when we put ourselves into this contract, this agreement with our wives or husbands, we need to go forward and not look back to the things of our past, not to have that escape route. And I don't know. I mean, I think all things in a marriage should be joint, whether it be the financial side of it or as many things as possible. It's, you know, all of us are going to have difficult times, and you're going to come to, I guess, times in your life or your relationship together where it's easy to, you know, throw in the towel. But if you have to make it, if you have to go forward, if you guys are so committed in everything, then, you know, as what always happens is a few months down the road, few weeks, maybe it takes a couple years, but those things seem to iron themselves out. And if we pull the ripcord at any side of trouble, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to have those things worked out. And you know, it's just ask anyone who's been married for a long time. So interesting. Well, that's it, guys. What do we have today? We have one more axe video. We'll finish shaping the handle, and I guess I don't really know what else to say. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.